Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday, and welcome back to our Soul Steps Book Club, or our Soul Pilgrimage, as we like to call it. My name is Veronica Connors. If you're joining us for the first time, this Soul Pilgrimage or this Soul Book Club is based on our book, Soul Steps 52 Ways to Reconnect with Spirit. Soul Steps actually was co-authored by my two friends and colleagues, Florence Strang, registered psychologist, mind body soul coach Natalie Finley, and myself, Veronica Connors. I'm a spiritual life coach, a meditation teacher, and a Reiki master. So you can find us here once a week on Sundays at 7 o'clock Newfoundland Standard Time, where one of the authors will present a chapter from Soul Steps from this book. Each chapter, honestly, is packed with stories, exercises, teachings to help you with your own personal growth and your inner journey. And I'd like to thank you for liking and sharing these videos. This is video number 30 out of 52. That's one full year of videos that we are doing for absolutely free. And we do this because we want to share this information with you. So please continue to like and share with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, with whoever you think is interested, because we want to help as many people as we can to live an authentic life, really. And I know that may sound like a trite word, but lead a life that is meant for them and to lead a life of truth. And that's what this book is all about, helping you do your own inner work so that then you can lead the life that you want to live and that you feel is truthful for you. Because when we make that effort and we lead lives that are true to ourselves, then we can contribute from this very clean space. And when we contribute from this space into the bigger world, we can contribute to the peace, to the efficiency, to the authenticity of the larger community, of our country, of our larger human community, where we understand the interconnectedness between all of us. And that starts with us leading our most authentic, most true, most cleaned up life is what I want to say, where we clean up our own stuff so that we can get to the real nitty gritty of what we're here to do and how we're here to do it. And this is what this book is all about. So I hope you will continue to join us in these videos. So now on to today's soul step, which is soul step number 10, and it's one of my favorite topics. It's actually titled Your Inner Sentinel. This chapter is all about your intuition and how to tune into your own intuition so that your life is more guided when you use this sixth sensory skill. I call this piece your inner sentinel because your intuition is like your inner guardian of sorts. It lets you know when something or someone is in your favor or is not. As simple as that. Is this in my favor or is this not? Is this person in my favor or are they not? Is this right for me or is it not? And learning to guide yourself is one of the most important skills I think we have, and we all have this ability. Now, I call this piece your inner sentinel because your intuition is like your guardian. Even though your intuition can be used to detect danger, as you might commonly know it's used for, we get very physical responses to potential danger. And that's part of our human makeup. It's also used to guide us through situations that are potentially harmful. But it also goes way beyond the physical. It goes beyond the intellectual as well. When you experience a deeper knowing that you can't quite explain. This is your inner sentinel at work, guiding you in a direction, like I just mentioned, that is right for you. And only is it right for you. There could be a lot of other people involved in that situation, but your intuition tells you what's right for you. And that's what we're talking about today. So, there are two things at work here. One is your intuition, and the second thing is trusting that this intuition or this inner guidance is right. That's another matter altogether. So you have intuition on one side, which is a subtle form of guidance. Intuition is very subtle, and that's something that we're talking about today. And then you have the ability to trust your intuition. That's something a little bit different that you have to grow and practice and learn to trust yourself again. It's a skill of sorts. And in order to actually utilize this gift that we've come with as part of our energy system, this intuitive ability, then we must grow this skill of trusting our intuitive abilities. And again, that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So in this chapter and the Inner Sentinel, this is chapter 10 in Soul Steps, I tell a story about my family's first golden retriever, and his name was Amber. And I am sure many of you had a first pet that you would call with great fondness. So our first golden retriever, and we have had four, still have two, was named Amber. And Amber had been with us for about 12 and a half years at the time of the story. He was a healthy, strong dog, very strong actually, but was showing signs of pain and unrest. And I had taken him to the vet as he seemed really disoriented on a walk one night. And the vet decided that he would keep him overnight and give him fluids and run a few tests to make sure he was okay. So this had happened just after a long illness. My mom actually had ALS, and she had a very long illness, and then she eventually passed of this illness. And this was just only a few months after my mom's passing. So I really felt I didn't want to leave Amber at the vet, and I was really worried about him passing as well. So I said to the vet the next day when I went to pick him up, I wanted to bring Amber home if he was well enough. Of course, I wanted to do what's right for him. If he's well enough, I wanted him to go home and recuperate and be around the family and to get better rather than to be at the vet's. So once we did get Amber home, he really perked up. I mean, he really began to become well again. He was acting like his normal strong self. He was playing with our other golden retriever. He went on walks again. He ate lots of food. He drank his fluids. So everything seemed to be going well. So of course, I was so happy that I had brought him home and that whatever ailed him seemed to be passing. But about 10 days later, I was going to bed around 11:30 p.m. And for some reason, I was tossing and turning, and I pulled at the blankets, and as I rolled over and tossed and turned in bed, I noticed that it was midnight. So this was a full half hour after I had gone to bed at 11:30. And I wondered why I couldn't get to sleep that night, as it normally took me literally seconds to get to sleep. And it still only takes me seconds to get to sleep. But here I was, a half hour later, it was midnight, and I was still wide awake and certainly not anywhere near going to sleep. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming urge to get out of bed and to go be with Amber. And honestly, I had no physical evidence other than this was an intuitive message or an intuitive feeling, or it's just a deeper feeling I had, an intuitive knowing, I'm going to call it, that I needed to get out of bed and go out and be with my dog. The feeling was so strong, it's as if my body wouldn't allow me to stay in bed that night. It was like it was telling me, get up, you have to get up. So, with purpose, I pulled back the covers and I began to get dressed. My husband must have heard me because he was sound asleep. He must have heard me getting dressed, and he asked me if I was okay. And I told him I have to go out to be with Amber. I think that he may really need me. And, what happens if he dies out there alone? And I just didn't want that to happen. Now, given the recent loss of my mom, it probably seemed like an irrational and an emotional response to get out of bed at midnight to be with a pet that seemed perfectly fine, absolutely perfectly fine, and had been acting fine. But as you know, intuition transcends the rational mind. Intuition transcends the rational mind. So when I went out into the living room, I did get up and I went out into the living room after I was dressed. And Amber was laying asleep on the floor. And to be honest, he did seem perfectly fine. So I just found a spot on a nearby couch and pulled a big heavy green blanket up to my chin, curled up, and just went to sleep on the couch. But after about an hour later, I woke up to his very, very heavy panting. And if you know, many dogs, you likely know, many dogs pant. One, of course, to release heat from their body, but also in pain. So I got up from the couch and I lay down next to him because I wasn't sure what the panting was about. As he continued to wake up periodically, he would wake up and pant a lot. And then he would rest, and then he would pant a lot, and then he would rest. And something new in me knew that this was a very sacred time, that this was, I was meant to be sitting with him. I wanted to be present for this very, very precious animal, as he had always been present for me. Now, many hours had passed as I stayed with him, and at 5 a.m., he jumped up to his feet as if he was startled by something, and he circled around as if looking for that source of discomfort. And then he staggered and he fell to the floor. Again, I never thought about it. I just curled my body around his. I put this heavy green blanket over the two of us, and after that, we both drifted off to sleep, just to the rhythm of his very shallow breathing. Very shallow breathing. About an hour later still, it must have been about 6 a.m., I woke to his lifeless body. So he had passed. And at that time, I pulled back the blanket that had kept the two of us so cozy over the night, and I just wrapped him up in it. I rubbed and stroked his fur probably a few more times, just knowing that that would be the last time that I was stroking his fur. And then I got up and just walked down the hallway to wake my husband and my 3 children so that they too could say goodbye to this precious animal. I still, as I tell that story, I feel like I'm there, and I'm so glad that I trusted my intuition. But I wanted to share that story because it's such a great example of trusting your intuition. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so grateful that I listened to my inner voice that night and not to my rational mind. And because of it, I was able to support this beautiful, beautiful animal and to share this sacred time together. So I'm sure many, many of you have a similar moment of intuition that was equally powerful as that story I just told. And I imagine that if we were sitting together, we could pinpoint some of the similarities in the way we intuitively sensed a need for some action on our part, a need for some movement on our part. So looking at this situation, it would seem that to get out of bed was an irrational thought, wouldn't it? Because the animal was fine. He was fine. But very often you'll notice that intuitive feelings are not supported by outside appearances. Intuitive feelings are not supported by outside appearances. That's what makes other people question what you're doing sometimes when you're trusting your intuition, because there's no outside appearance to support what you feel is right in that moment. My dog appeared to be fine. He was acting perfectly healthy for the last 10 days. Whatever ailed him had seemed to have passed. So there was no evidence to support that he needed me to get out of bed to be with him. However, trusting these inner impulses, because that's what they are, they're inner impulses and they're subtle, and guiding your life intuitively means directing life from within. Directing your life from within and trusting these very subtle influences in your life. That's intuition. So right now I'd like to read you the highlighted quote from this section on page 61. Every chapter has a highlighted quote. Every chapter in Soul Steps has a highlighted quote. And it just highlights a quote from the piece that might give you a little thought, pause for thought. And this highlighted quote says, "You possess the innate nature to know and feel right action in your body, and there are ways to discern whether you're on the right track." You possess the innate nature, we are born with this nature, to know and feel right action. What is the right action in this moment? And you feel it through the body. And there are ways to discern whether you're on the right track. Truth has a distinctive flavor that makes it recognizable. You know the truth because it has a distinctive flavor. You know what I'm talking about. It is clear, it is quiet, and it is peaceful. The truth is clear, quiet, and peaceful. Your body will almost move as if nodding yes when you recognize it. So if you tune into what's going on in your body, you can also pick up messages related to your intuition. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, as well as a way to practice your intuition. Eckhart Tolle also has a wonderful quote related to this very concept, I want to say, that we are talking about, with knowing clearly what the truth feels like. And he says, "Become at ease with the state of not knowing. This takes you beyond the mind, and the mind is always trying to think and interpret. The mind is afraid of not knowing. The mind is afraid of not knowing, so it's working very hard to think and interpret the facts that are in front of it. A deeper state of knowing," he says, "that is non-conceptual, then arises out of this state. A deeper state of knowing that is non-conceptual arises out of the state of not knowing." I love this, and I think it's perfect for what we're talking about today. In order to get to this deeper state of knowing, you have to be okay with not knowing. And people around you may question your not knowing because you're sensing something deeper, but they do not see the evidence. And you're trusting the not knowing and moving into a deeper state of knowing. So for example, I had to be okay with not knowing why I was compelled to go out and be with Amber in the living room. I had to be okay with my mind trying to rationalize this behavior, or maybe even my husband questioning that behavior or wondering if I was being irrational or maybe emotional. I had to be okay with not knowing and still be willing to follow through on this very subtle impulse that was being presented from within. The impulse to get out of bed at midnight and move closer to my sleeping animal who seemed perfectly fine. This allowed me, by trusting this and by moving forward with this, it allowed me to access a state of true knowing. So I tuned into my body, I listened to what I felt, this subtle energy to get out of bed, and then that allowed me to tune into a state of true knowing. This is my connective self, my intuitive self. This is your connected and intuitive self. You might say, well, Veronica, how do I know if I'm following my inner guidance and not just listening to my ego mind? And that can be tricky, especially when you're learning to trust yourself more. It's really a good question that you might ask. The muddied thoughts of indecision is related to the ego and the many layers of your conscious and unconscious behavior patterns, or the many layers of the circumstance that's going on around you as well. So one thing to remember when you're trying to discern if this is my ego or is this my intuition, is that your ego mind, remember, it's always thinking, always trying to rationalize. So your ego mind is noisy, it's bossy, it's inconsistent. It's going to do whatever it can to rationalize something that you're trying to go against the rational thoughts of the mind, or the rational thoughts of the mind. Think of it like a toddler who's throwing a little fit in the grocery store because the toddler wants a treat. So that's kind of the way that the ego mind is. It's pushy, it's rash, it's screaming, it's yelling at you. It wants you to get it now, move now. So that's the ego mind. Whereas in contrast, your intuitive self is quiet, it's clear, and it's consistent. You feel a strong impulse, or even a subtle impulse, but it's deep. And it's not noisy and loud and pushy. So when you're thinking of your intuition, think of it like the parent, the wise parent, who has insight into the situation that you can't quite see right now. The parent knows that to give in to the toddler wanting that chocolate is not good for the toddler. It's not good for the toddler to have the sweets, too many sweets, or to yell and scream for what he or she wants and to be given it. So think of your intuition as a wise parent. So just like me, you already have all the tools you need to direct and lead your own life. And when you practice following through on your inner guidance, which we're going to talk about in a moment, you will find a pattern of awareness is going to emerge. And you'll start recognizing when your intuition is speaking to you and when your ego mind is speaking to you. And then you'll be able to trust yourself more readily. Because remember, the intuition is quiet, it's clear, it's ever present. That's your intuitive self. So the more you listen to your intuitive self, the stronger your intuitive self becomes. And now I'm just going to finish up this video with 3 ways that you can build your intuition and learn to trust your intuitive self more readily. So the first one is just checking in with your thoughts. Check in with your thoughts and see, are these thoughts pushy? Are these ego thoughts? Is my little toddler going off and having a little fit? Because that'll let you know that this is your ego that's pushing for action and not your intuitive self. Now, the second part, or the second trick, is to then move in and listen to your body. When something is not right, your body is going to send signals to you. So for me, when something's not right for me, my posture changes. I'm going to back away. I'm going to physically retreat, maybe protect my, if we're an animal, we're going to protect the essential organs. I might close up and retreat and curl up. But also, this is something that I trust, is the gut area, and that's why it's called the gut feeling. The gut area is lined with thousands of neurons, like the brain. It's called the second brain, actually, the enteric brain. It's lined with thousands of neurons. So you get these gut feelings because it is an intuitive, innate reaction that's happening in the body that you can tune into and pick up on these signals. Now, with my gut, and probably with yours too, when you start to tune in, it constricts, it contracts, it pulls in when something's not right for me. Now, when something is right for me, I feel this expansion in my gut. I also feel a leaning in, a moving towards. I might be willing. I still might be afraid, but I'm more willing. I want to do it. It's a different kind of fear. I might be afraid to do something, but I want to do it. The other one, oh, this is not right for me. I'm not only am I afraid, but it's a disgusted fear. I'm moving away and I'm pulling away my body. So use your body and tune into what your body is trying to tell you. It is already sending you messages about what is intuitively right for you. And now this brings us to the third. So the first is your thoughts, the second is tune into the body, and the third is listen to those impulses. Remember I said that they can be very subtle impulses. So it could be as light as a thought to go to the kitchen before you leave your house, and when you do, you find that your keys were left on the island. You know, you had an impulse, you're at the door, you have an impulse, oh, I need to run back to the kitchen to check. You think your keys are in your purse, but they're left on the island, so you follow through on the impulse. Or maybe you're in the grocery store and you stop in front of the veggie burger section or the milk or whatever it is you're buying. So you stop there and you say, no, I rationally think that I have that at home, but you have the impulse to pause in front of that section. So, you know, when you feel these impulses, you have two choices. Two options. One is to rationalize this impulse, telling yourself that you put your keys in your bag, like you always do, and go on to the car. And when you get there, you realize you don't have your keys. Or two, trust your intuitive impulse or your intuitive hit. It's like an intuitive hit. And your body's tuning into it, and your larger consciousness is tuning into it, and it's letting you know with this pause of sorts that you have forgotten something. These aren't important things. These are just little things that would make your day run more smoothly if you actually listen to those hits. So practice listening to those little intuitive hits. So just to recap, 3 ways that you can build your intuition. 1, check in with your thoughts. The ego is pushy little toddler. And your intuition is calm, quiet, and consistent. 2, check in with your body. Your body is your antenna. It is constantly sending you information and giving you guidance about what is right for you and what is not right for you. Check in with your body. Is it constricting? Is it expanding? Do you feel a constriction? Do you feel an expansion? And 3, listen for those little impulses, because those little impulses, again, they give you pause. I feel like I should check on that. Or I remember, you get a thought maybe that you remember you should do something. Just trust them and see if it makes your life flow a little more easily if you trust those little impulses. And then you will find you'll be able to trust your instincts, and you'll be able to use it on bigger, more important matters. So that's all about intuition today. So I hope you found this video helpful. I want to thank you again for tuning in, for liking and sharing these videos. We want to share these videos, so please do. If you find this helpful, other people will find it helpful too. So please share these videos. As always, Natalie comes after me. She's next week, and Florence is the week after that. And I'll be here in 3 weeks' time with Soul Step number 11, The Beauty Secret. And this is all from Soul Steps, 52 Ways to Reconnect with Spirit. You can find it on Amazon.ca and Amazon.com if you'd like to read along with us. So bye for now and have a great week.